First of all, thank you all for attending, and I'm grateful to be your first presenter for this conference. I don't know how I top that lovely first beginning and introduction. I do also have a nickname. It's Chatty Cathy. So I know we're all waiting to go for a break, so also not sure how long my slides are going to take. A lot of this information is very technical in nature, so I'll skip through the slides. I like to consider myself a door opener and an access to smart people and good information. So I am a subject matter expert on nothing, but I will find you the right people to find you the information that you're looking for. So I am grateful to be supporting ACSI. We do work with Gerald and some of his team at supporting their networks. The company was founded over 20 years ago, and it was first and foremost to secure networks and firewalls, but we all know the world has pivoted now into security. So with that, I've made some notes. Most of all, I'm basically saying I'm letting go of my ego and I'm going to suck today, but hopefully you'll bear with me. So a little bit about my background. I was going to do my land acknowledgement to where I've lived. I've been fortunate to move around quite a bit in my life. Spent some time in northern Saskatchewan in La Ronge. Spent 13 years in Yellowknife. Before Nunavut was a territory. I worked for the RCMP as a dispatcher, but prior to that, I actually worked on the residential school files for a number of years. So I feel like my knowledge base is weak as a Caucasian Canadian, but I have been grateful to understand a number of different environments and cultures and background. So after the RCMP segue, I pivoted into equipment finance, which allowed me to have high-level conversations with organizations, predominantly in the public sector, so completely underfunded, and with a team that has to support resources that are expansive of their ability and knowledge. So a number of K-12 environments, I'd say, how much money do you have to spend? Great, what do you have to do with it? Okay, you have 1/10 of the budget that's actually gonna have the capacity to deliver the services. So conversations have been, what's most important? And what do we need to focus on first? Because we can't be all things to all people. I also would meet with the IT leadership team and say, how often do you collaborate with finance? Once a year. What do you ask for? 10% more than last year. What do you get? The same amount, if we're lucky. So pivoting to the opening conversation with the organization that's nodding your head, 16 years, same budget. So how do we do more for less? Which was, I don't have any answers to any of those questions, but typically what I like to do is say, okay, here's our pile of funds, here's the resources we have to deliver, what are we gonna do first, and head on that merry way. So the company I'm working for now, ACSI, I'm very grateful. I have a team of really smart people. So from a technical service delivery, we support education, post-secondary, Indigenous groups. We are recently on a shared service agreement with the government of Alberta for all 5 categories of Fortinet solutioning. I had a conversation yesterday with the representative there and said, is this something that Aboriginal and Indigenous groups can take advantage of? I'm working to put that answer together. What it does is you don't have to go to tender and you get additional deep discounting. So I'm working on getting some answers for that as well. The services that we have, again, I've already touched on. So network implementation, cybersecurity. We partner with a team that has 220 individuals around the globe. They do get called in for incident response on some of the biggest breaches. I would say for this group here, one thing I can say that they have is a zero-cost incident response retainer. So if you want any of your playbooks ready for when you, I'm going to say when you get breached, their team can do protocol to work with you and the insurance providers to mitigate some of that details. Touched on that already. I'm going to save these slides for you guys as a takeaway for after. I wanted to introduce you all via my slide to Adrienne Morrison. She works with a company called Data Sentinel. She is, I didn't bring you guys up to speed with me. There she is. She's an expert in data policy, rules, building out a plan for governance, has years and years of records management experience. She said the first green link is access to a lot of the information, templates, and governance details that some of these folks in the room may have access to, have already maybe looked at. Maybe you're halfway down that journey and want some help to set up the rest of your policies. The second one there is a BC resource, also relative for most of the First Nation groups, if you wanted to have access to that. I can put any of you in touch with Adrienne. She's currently working on an initiative with Arctic College in Nunavut. They've mandated her to set up all of the governance and risk for the school. So lots of knowledge, lots of resources, and happy to make that introduction for you all as well. And now I have a video on here. I'm going to double click it, or you're going to play it. There is a swear word in here. Does it have sound? Okay. Sound is coming. I like this pause. I can take a deep breath and say technology is only good when it works.
Hey, Mom. Hey, Dad. It's me, Ella. Well, a digital version of me. Just a bit older. Amazing what technology can do these days, isn't it? All you need are a couple of pictures, like the ones you share on social media, where they can be taken and used by everybody. I know, for you, these pictures are just memories, but for others, they are data. And for me, maybe the beginning of a horrible future. A future where my identity can be stolen just like that. Where I can go to prison for things that I would never do. Imagine my credit score being destroyed, Dad. Or my voice copied to scam you, Mom.
Mom, I'm in trouble.
I need you to send me money, please. I don't want to become a meme, humiliated by everyone at school.
Kill yourself, you fucking loser.
And I certainly don't want this. What you share online is like a digital footprint that will follow me around for the rest of my life. I'm telling you this because I know you love me and would never do anything to harm me. So please, Mom, please, Dad, protect my virtual privacy.
So that's incredibly powerful. And for the group here, I know that we're talking about the information that resides within your organizations. But it is that simple. And with AI, ChatGPT, Copilot, folks are sharing IP, they're sharing coding, they're sharing without even really being aware of what content is being generated and shared. So it segues me into the piece that's just on data governance. The security topic, I know there's a number of sessions that are going to be touching on what Microsoft's powerful tools can do and how to integrate Copilot safely. My presentation, I wanted to focus around the data piece. First of all, is anyone in here, I'm assuming you're mostly in IT, is anyone also responsible for the data governance and records keeping? 2, 3? Okay, so some of this content you'll know. For the IT folks in the room, there's 2 solutions that I'm going to speak to. One of them is Varonis, which is a software-based solution. The other one is Data Sentinel, which is a Canadian company. Data Sentinel does more of a needs assessment and consulting approach. Varonis is more of an automated enterprise-type solution. What I would suggest, though, is they will do a risk assessment for free for your organization. So if you want them to do a pool of where are your records, where is your data, how many credit cards are in your network, or organizationally, if you do any activities that would require identity. We do a lot of school scans. It's amazing how many passports of kids are sitting in shared drives that are accessible to the whole organization. So stuff like that, you need a starting point. So if you haven't done an assessment, I would highly recommend it. So the reasons why, I've got a slide here that I'm not going to read line by line. What I would say is establishing the controls and procedures is really where you need to start for your outcomes to be there. The approach is, like anything, it needs executive buy-in first and foremost. So I would say that organizationally, as long as you identify that this is something that you need to be focused on, you need an outcome, and then the approach. This is the framework that Data Sentinel suggests that we utilize. All of that again, and I'm not going to read line by line. You guys can look at the pictures, and I'll share the slide deck with you for information purposes. This is what's more important. It's that executive leadership buy-in, and then defining who's going to do the decision-making, and then who's going to integrate the work. So typically, this is the format that Data Sentinel likes to take in the approach. These are the guiding principles and foundation. The records managers in the room will appreciate this. There's a lot of background that went to our physical record keeping. The same thing applies to digital copies. I have a quick story. I was in records management for 32 seconds. This company hired me and they said, we're a moving company, we have space, we want to do physical storage. I said, okay, who owns this market and what organizations look after these kind of things? So I started making calls, and Iron Mountain has a monopoly. You've all seen the white box with the blue mountain. I'd call in and say, who looks after the white box with the blue mountain? Oh, that's Betty. Let me put you through to her. Hi, Betty. Are you happy with your level of service? No. Are you happy with your costs? No. They're a monopoly. And so customer service is not necessarily, no offense if anyone works for Iron Mountain or has in the past, but I would say, I'm working for a new company in Western Canada. We do all of the same things. We cost less, and I answer the phone when you call. So the whole idea was we were starting grassroots to all the companies that they had purchased in the consortia. But during that time, I would get Betty in records, and I would say, well, where are your physical records? And admin assistants would say, well, I back up everything every night on a stick, and I take it home with me. I'm like, okay, that wasn't what I was asking, but thanks for that information. Another organization, larger sized oil and gas company, oh, well, they're on the owner's land at Range Road, gave me the address. I'm like, not asking that question where your company's physical documents are stored, but thank you for sharing. Which would lead me to the one common denominator, and that is human error, and human risk. So 90% of all data breaches are human caused. So organizationally, you guys in the room purchase the software, you run the tools, you tell the people, use the tools, you educate them, but the bottom line is it's a daily touch point and reminder of what am I sending, what am I sharing, what am I telling someone, and can that have adverse cause and effect to the organization and like the video we just watched, to ourselves. So there is a roadmap and a plan. There is a lot of activities already noted. This may look overwhelming and daunting, but what I'm basically trying to share is that a lot of this foundational work has been done. So if you guys as an organization want to take advantage of that, we're here to help you. So the remediation process, both companies, like I said, do the scan and classify the process and the risk and the need and the urgency to identifying what the data is that is at risk and where it's sitting. So this is just an example of how they would acquire you've got thousands of passports, bank account information, restricted user access. They did one assessment and the CEO's SharePoint drive was open to the whole organization. So those are the kind of things that we want to help lock down and shut down so that your risk is mitigated. So there is a process. Trust me, all the dots do connect. And typically, you guys that can follow the flowcharts in IT, if you're missing step 2, go back to step 1. Then go back to step 2, then go back to step 1. Again, the remediation process is pretty regulated and foundational. This coding from a leadership perspective is organizationally for you to identify what your risk levels are. So if you're in healthcare, if you're in financial services, your risk levels are going to be set a lot higher. If you're dealing with sensitive information. Again, in the essence of us getting to a coffee break, I'm going to skip through a lot of these. The privacy and legal is all worked through as well. There does have to be a data steward. So records managers speak different language than IT does, and they speak a different language than HR does. So all of this type of work is essential on collaboration. There is software tools that can assist with the different languages and the silos of the organization, but it has to be a team effort. Now I'm going to move into some black and white glossy slides. This is Veronis's background information. There's a whole session on integrating Copilot and AI. I believe a couple of the sessions are touching on that through the conference, so I won't go through it. But security and privacy are imminent at delivering any of the integrations. How many of you guys have rolled out Copilot or made any rulings with using ChatGPT in your organizations? Okay, so preliminary in the work is what I'm gathering in the room. So for those of you who don't know, we can help you go through the list of what is it, how does it work, where are the risks, what are you trying to solve for, and then how do you deploy it. We all know that Microsoft is the most powerful productivity tool on the planet. I would attest that I am not using 1/10 of its capabilities in order to help me work. But the content creation, user permissions, and data access are things that organizationally you have to look at. I would say good intentions are always there, but the exploiter of your immature data and the access to your company's information is what needs to be looked at and addressed. So there's some examples here of the software of how it'll go through a Teams meeting, file sharing, how do you upload yesterday's notes, which typically could have information for the organization into a file folder, into a shared directory, and where is that knowledge sitting after everybody's collaborated with it. So yeah, this is, I don't know, are most of you in a Teams environment organizationally? So yeah, I think there's a lot of Microsoft themes, and this will be brought up a number of times this week. So again, the approach to AI security. All I'll say is that it is there, but Microsoft, again, is not a security company. They're creating the tools for us to use and gather. But the permissions and how you have it set up and configured is what needs to be looked at. This is more information that I won't go into granular detail on. I'll just say that half of the permissions you guys probably have set up in your organization are high risk. And the bottom point, 99% of user permissions aren't used. So I would make sure you guys lock that down from an organizational standpoint. And there's ways to mitigate and look after it. So again, these are things that you should do. Whether or not you're integrating them into your environment is another story. So again, none of this is new information for the IT folks in the room. I was going to say one at my table who's using a flip phone who doesn't have any social media content. I was like, shout out to you. I love it. Again, I'm not, in the essence of time, I'm not going to scan through all of the detailing that I created here from a content perspective. But again, there's rules, labels, ways to look at what your exposure risks are, ways to block, and then, yeah, I was like, you guys in IT will appreciate that last slide, which was just like error, user, risk. So access controls, again, they've got ways to mitigate and deploy it. I would just recommend going through the process of having this done for you guys and what they solve for. So some of the right-hand column, organizationally, you guys may have 2 or 3 of those tools. This can enhance everything that you guys have organizationally, but it is all part of an assessment saying this is what we have paid for, this is the software that we're using, and how do we manage, based on budget, what we've been able to afford, deploy, and who in the organization's using it. And that's it. I've jumped through all the technical slide information. I will share the deck with you guys. Again, grateful for the opportunity to share the information, and if you want an introduction to any of my smart people, I would be grateful to make that happen.